I was 24 when it started. Back then, my world was mostly small rooms, my shared apartment on the east side of Brookwell, my desk at a low-level marketing job, my well-worn bus route. Life had a shape I could trace with my finger. Safe, predictable, a little lonely. Bree, my roommate, was the opposite of safe and predictable. She ran on trends, kombucha phases, infrared saunas, dating apps. I could count her crushes by the week. "You're going to end up alone if you don't at least try, Lena," she said one night, sprawled across our faded couch, thumb flicking through faces. "You never go out, you don't drink, and you still carry a flip phone." "I have a smartphone," I murmured. "Barely," she teased. She wasn't wrong. 2 awkward dates in a year. I'd built a fortress out of caution and routine. My mother raised me that way. 2 locks on every window, never walk home alone, know your exits before you enter a room. It wasn't paranoia, it was how you stayed whole. Online dating felt like the opposite of control. But that night, maybe out of boredom, maybe out of a quiet ache, I gave in. Not Tinder. Too loud, too quick. Instead, an app called Chatter, all muted blues and soft fonts, promising real profiles and genuine connection. I uploaded 2 photos, a sweater, no filters, a short dull bio. And then I waited. Days blurred, a few "hey beautiful" messages, a few gifts, nothing that lasted, until Evan. His profile was simple, a crooked smile, glasses, a dog he said belonged to his sister, a food truck photo, Chicago skyline. His bio, "Not here to waste time. I'd rather know your favorite smell than your astrological sign. Introvert. Reader." Lame dad jokes included. It felt safe, funny, normal. I messaged first, "Favorite smell?" He replied almost instantly, "Fresh coffee. Also, wood smoke is a great pick. You have good taste." We talked for 2 hours that night. Books, food, childhood embarrassments. He told me about his graphic design job, his rented apartment, his mom's obsession with tarot cards. Personal but not prying. And most important, he didn't push. That was how the fortress cracked. For 2 days, the messages stayed easy. No flirting, no pressure, just steady conversation. Then he asked for my number. I hesitated, then thought, he's been normal. I can block him anytime. I said yes. Texting was even better. Morning pictures of a fox near his office. Late night talk about old cartoons. His humor stayed soft, self-deprecating. No red flags, no demands. Until one night, a small wrong note. He asked for my Instagram handle. I froze. I'd never mentioned Instagram. I wasn't active. Private account under a variation of my middle name, mostly to follow artists. Hard to guess. "Why?" I typed. "Just curious. I like seeing more of the people I connect with," he replied. Fair. But I said I wasn't comfortable sharing that yet. His next message came fast. "It's okay. I already know everything I need to know about you anyway." My thumb hovered over the screen. "What do you mean?" I typed. Silence. Then, "I work in tech. I know how to dig when I need to. Don't worry, you're not a catfish. You're exactly who you say you are. That's rare." Something in me went cold. "How do you know that?" I asked. He sent another text, like a magician revealing a trick. "You use the same username on Tumblr and Pinterest. Took a few guesses. You posted at Brookwell Central Library last week. You like cats and birthday hats. It's cute." I hadn't told him any of that. I didn't even use those accounts anymore. That old gut-level fear I'd carried since childhood roared awake. Heat behind my ears, hands trembling. I typed slowly. "That's invasive. It's creepy. You've crossed a line." His response was not an apology. It was a laugh, dozens of "ha-ha" in all caps, spilling across my screen like static. Then paragraphs. How women lie online. How he was just making sure. How I should be flattered. I stopped replying. He didn't. By midnight, my phone was buzzing nonstop. My name over and over. Photos of places I'd been, drawn from social media. Nothing overtly threatening, but the sheer volume was like someone pressing their face against the glass of my life, breathing there. At 2:18 a.m., one final text. I'd never hurt you. You're special. I just see you. I stared at the glow of my screen, the apartment silent except for Bree's breathing in the next room. And for the first time, I wasn't scared of what he'd said. I was scared of what he might do. Bree blinked awake as I shook her shoulder the next morning. She scrolled through the messages, lips tightening. "Call the police," she whispered. "But what do I report?" I said. "He hasn't threatened me. He hasn't shown up. The fortress I'd built, rules, distance, control, had crumbled without him ever stepping into my space. He'd only used what was already out there. That was the day I learned a new kind of fear. Not the stranger on the sidewalk, not the guy at the bar, but the one who never raises a red flag until it's already too late. The one who lives in your phone. And that was only the beginning. I woke to the glow on my nightstand, and the small sound every smartphone makes when it is certain it matters more than sleep. 2 short chimes, a pause, a single patient vibration. 2:18 a.m. The screen showed nothing new. No messages, no banners, just the lock screen and its soft gradient. I held the phone anyway, waiting for it to do the sound again, like a child waiting for a toy to perform on command. Nothing. The apartment was quiet. Refrigerator hum. Someone's pipes knocking 2 floors above us. Beyond the window, the orange halo of the street lamp brightened the edge of my curtains. I set the phone on its face and tried to drift. 2 minutes later, the chime returned. Not loud, just present. I sat up, heart stumbling against my ribs, and turned the phone over. Still nothing. No badge, no bubbles, only time. 2:20. "Bree?" I whispered into the dark. From her room, a sleepy rustle. "You okay?" "My phone keeps, I don't know," I said. "It's making that sound." "Update glitch," she mumbled. "Put it on airplane." I did. The silence pressed close. I tried to rest, but the quiet felt shaped like someone listening. By morning, rational thoughts replaced the night logic. Phones hiccup, apps stall, ghost notifications are a known thing. I brewed coffee, watched the kettle begin to sing, and wrote a list in my little spiral notebook. When I feel afraid, I make lists. It gives fear a smaller room. Rules, starting now. Block Evan's number. Mute chatter. Lock down everything. New email, new passwords. Do not post location. Tell Bree where I am, always. I stood at the window with a mug warming my fingers and checked the street. Usual morning stuff. A neighbor with a husky. A mail truck groaning into gear. A woman jogging with a bright pink scarf that kept slipping. Nothing unusual. I almost laughed at myself. Then the fox appeared. Not a real one, just a small sticker on the glass of the laundry room across our alley. I had never noticed it before. Orange, with a thin black outline, tail curled like smoke. Evan sent me a fox photo the other day, I thought. A city fox crossing near his office. The coincidence snagged at me. I took my mug to the sink. Coincidences are not crimes. Brains make patterns because patterns make us feel safe. I blocked his number. I deleted chatter. I changed my Instagram handle and set it to private. I reset 2 old passwords and chose ones with nonsense phrases my hands would remember before my mind did. Bri left for work, then doubled back to hug me at the door. "Text me where you'll be," she said. "I have a plan," I said, lifting the notebook. It felt good to have a plan. The plan made the rooms brighter. At noon, the library's quiet pulled me in like a soft tide. Brookwell Central had a way of muffling the world. Carpeted floors, the gentle click of keyboards, the occasional throat clear. I chose a corner table where I could see the entrance. When I opened my laptop, the camera was already covered by the little blue tape I keep for that purpose. I told myself it was not silly. I began with my privacy stuff. I checked email filters. I dug through settings I had never touched. I revoked app permissions from services I had forgotten. The work was fussy and boring, which helped. Half an hour into it, the printer near the reference desk came to life. Someone's job had landed, shrilling out a long stream of pages. The sound startled the quiet so completely that 5 heads lifted at once. Mine, the librarian's, an older man reading the paper, a pair of students hunched over flashcards, and a kid with a graphic novel balanced on his knees. "Sorry," the librarian said, and padded to the machine. The printer spit, paused, spit. Paper stacks shifted. The smell of warm toner reached me. Harmless things can sound like alarms if you're listening for alarms. I decided to print a single-page checklist so I could cross items with a pen. The printer acknowledged me with a little chirp, then fell busy again. When I picked up my page, my QR-like square in the corner made me smile. I love checkboxes. The librarian had already stacked the earlier job and set it aside. It was a standard-looking document set. Cover sheet, numbered pages, a staple in the corner. The top page carried a title that registered as boring, something about a community funding proposal. On the second page, in the margin near the staple, someone had drawn a tiny fox. 3 pen strokes, tail, ear, whisker dot. I told myself to breathe. People draw foxes. Foxes are common doodles. It still put a cold fingertip on my spine. I slid my printed page under my arm, nodded to the librarian, and left. On the walk home, I practiced the rules in my head like a prayer. I will not post. I will not answer unknown numbers. I will share my location with Bree. I will not be ashamed of being cautious. The afternoon passed with tasks, laundry, dishes, work emails. I checked the peephole before I opened our door each time. I kept the chain on, even for packages. Nothing unusual arrived. The parts of a normal day clicked by in order. At 8:14 p.m., the quiet set in the way it does in small apartments, like the room takes a breath with you. Bree had a late shift and texted a photo of her on break, paper hat tilted, a grin under fluorescent light. I sent back a heart and a bad joke about cardboard pizza. At 9:03, a follow request landed on my cleaned-up Instagram. The account name was harmless, a string of numbers, a single default avatar. I ignored it. At 9:05, a second request arrived, this one with a picture, a night sky. The bio said, "Coffee is my personality. Sorry." A common sentence. The first photo in the grid showed a small campfire. 2 pieces of wood leaned together. Smoke rose like a question mark. I closed the app and set the phone away, screen down. I made tea. The kettle sang. The apartment smelled briefly of lemon and steam. I sat on the floor in the living room with my back against the couch and my notebook open, pen balanced across the spiral. The page said, "Echoes," and underneath I had written, "Fox Coffee, 218. I heard the soft scrape before I understood what it was. Metal on metal, then a tiny tick. Our mailbox. We share a cluster of boxes at the base of the stairs, the kind with individual doors and a larger flap for the carrier. The sound is distinct. It means someone has opened or tried to open one of the slots. Mine is the second from the top. I move to the peephole. The hallway lights cast their kind yellow on the wall opposite. The air held the faint scent of detergent from the basement laundry. No one was visible. The building breathed little sounds as old buildings do. I waited 1 full minute. Nothing. I returned to the couch and set the pen down. Hall noises, I told myself. Let them be hall noises. When fear grows, it needs you to feed it attention. I would not. At 9:18, a gentle, familiar chime. My phone, on its face, made that small sound. Twice. A pause. One vibration. I picked it up. Screen lit. No messages. No badges. This is how fear works. It does not rush you. It taps. It waits. It attends to you as if you are its only task. I took an extra blanket from the hall closet and returned to the couch. I put on a soft nature documentary, the kind with close-ups of insects and water sounds. The narration murmured about the secret life of night gardens. It should have been perfect for sleep. Instead, at 10:40, the building's buzzer crackled. The sound is harsh by design. It pins you to the moment. If you have ever lived in a building with a buzzer, you know it arrives like a decision someone else has made for you. I went to the intercom and pressed the small square to speak. "Hello?" A pause. Then a man's voice, soft and slightly breathy, as if he had jogged the last few steps. "Delivery for Lena." "What is it?" "Gift," he said. "We didn't order anything," I said. "Leave it in the vestibule." "I need a signature," the voice said. "Company policy." I pressed my tongue to my teeth, steadying my voice. "Who is the sender?" Another small pause. Then, as if reading a label, "E. Wren." I did not let the air leave my lungs for a few seconds. When I did speak, my voice sounded different to me, very calm, very careful. "Leave it in the vestibule, please." A longer pause. "Sure thing," the voice said. The line clicked dead. I watched the peephole for a long time. I did not open the door. When I finally moved, it was to text Bree that our buzzer had sounded. She replied instantly. "I'm off in 20. I'm bringing the spicy noodles. Do not open that door." The noodles arrived with Bree at 11:08. She held the takeout bag like a small trophy. Her face was serious, but her eyes stayed kind. "Show me," she said. We crept together to the stairwell and peered down. On the black mat in the vestibule sat a brown parcel about the size of a hardcover book. No ribbons, no note. The shipping label had my name and apartment number, neat and centered. The return address read, Wren and Company, Stationers, P.O. Box, and an unreadable smear where a city name should be. Bree unlocked the top door, and we went to the landing between floors, the narrow, safe middle ground where you can retreat either way. She reached the parcel with a broom handle and drew it back toward us, slow and careful. We listened for sound. No ticking, no shifting. "Feels like a book," she said. We carried it inside like a tiny bomb. At the kitchen table, I used a butter knife to lift the paper edges. The tape separated with a steady peel. Inside, an ordinary craft box held a soft bed of crinkle-cut paper. The smell reached up first. Not perfume. Paper and something faintly sharp, like new pennies. I brushed the shreds aside and found a notebook. Black cover, elastic band, smooth spine. The kind sold at every bookstore on the front display. The kind I buy when I want to feel like a person who writes. On the first page, someone had written my name in neat block letters. I touched the ink with the back of my finger. Not wet. Not smudged. The second page showed a printed grid, a calendar, undated. The third page held a single sentence in that same neat hand. "I see you. Make rules. I follow rules too." Bree sucked a breath in. "Okay," she said. "We are calling, right now." She dialed the non-emergency line. We explained. The officer on the phone was polite and careful, the way trained voices are when they speak to anxious people. He asked if there was a threat. We said there were messages that made our phones too loud and a package we did not want. He told us to keep the box, to save the label, to write everything down, as if we would be telling it to a stranger later. He said a car would do a pass-by. "Should we go somewhere?" Bree asked after she hung up. I looked at the notebook. My name on the first page looked ordinary. A person's name often looks ordinary when written by someone who should not know it. "I want to stay," I said. "I do not want to be chased out." We ate noodles on the couch with the volume low and the curtains drawn an extra inch. The steam rose in clean lines. Sweat prickled my upper lip. We spoke about normal things on purpose. Her coworker who never refilled the sanitizer bottles. My supervisor who used words like synergy without blinking. Ordinary talk is its own kind of guard. Just after midnight, a car rolled slow in front of our building and idled for a moment. The light bar did not flash. The engine sounded patient. Then it moved on. In its wake, the street felt emptier. False peace is still peace. We slept. 2 nights passed with only the small chime at 2:18 a.m. My phone would wake, announce itself, and return to quiet. No messages, no calls, no new packages. I turned the sound all the way down the second night, and still woke at 2:18, as if the chime lived inside my chest now, and not the device. On the third day, I went back to the library. Not for privacy work this time, for normal work, for the feeling of being a person in a chair among other people in chairs. I chose the same corner table. This time the printer stayed silent. The air smelled like dust and cooling plastic and the faint sweetness of someone's gum. Halfway through an email, a shadow moved across my screen. Not a person. A cursor. My cursor. It nudged left, then right, then settled. I took my hands off the trackpad. The tiny arrow moved again, a tremor, then stillness. Loose Bluetooth, I told myself. Finicky trackpad. I clicked save and closed the lid. I sat there a while with my hands over the cover, feeling how warm the aluminum had become. On my way out, I stopped at the community bulletin board. A new flyer had been posted among the guitar lessons and the lost cat. It announced a privacy basics night class at the community center. I tore one tab with the instructor's email and tucked it into my pocket like a charm. Outside, the sky had gone thin and gray, the color the world takes when rain prepares itself. The air smelled like wet concrete before any drops fall. I pulled my hood up and turned toward the bus stop. That was when I saw him. Not Evan. A man in a navy jacket standing across the street, with his hands in his pockets and his face tilted toward the clouds. He looked like anyone you would pass on a Tuesday. When he lowered his head, he did not look at me. He looked at the library door, then at the fox sticker in the laundry room window across the alley, then back to the door. After a moment, he walked on. It could have been nothing. People look at doors. People look at stickers. He did not follow me. He did not even glance my way. I kept my hood up on the bus, sat in the second seat behind the driver, and watched the city pass in wet reflections. I practiced my rule again. I will not feed fear attention. At home, I made soup. I called my mother and talked about the neighbor's baby and whether salty butter is better than sweet. Simple talk, warm talk. I was washing the pot when the intercom crackled again. "Hello?" I said. A woman's voice this time, bright. "Package for Lena." My body went loose with relief that made no sense. "You can leave it," I said, smiling at Bree, who was drying bowls with a dish towel. "Signature required," the voice chirped. "Stationer's policy." I swallowed. "Who is the sender?" "Wren and Company," she said. "We already received one." Another smile in the voice. "Lucky you." The line clicked off. Bree reached the door first and peered down. The vestibule held no one. The stairs held no one. On the mat sat another box, this one thinner. We repeated our landing trick and brought it in, brooms and all. Inside lay a narrow envelope and a smaller notebook. The envelope contained a single Polaroid. The white border was clean. The image was grainy but clear enough. It showed my living room from behind the couch, from about the height of a shoulder. The shot included the corner of my sweater where it hangs on the chair, the curve of the lamp, the little blue tape over my laptop camera, and my spiral notebook on the coffee table. The first page was open to the word echoes. My pen lay on the spiral. Across the bottom border, in neat block letters, a sentence. I keep rules too. Every night at 2:18, I see if you are awake. My hands were steady when I set the photo down. Fear can do that. Shake you in private, then steady you when the task is to understand. I turned the smaller notebook over and found a page already filled. It was a calendar week, 7 empty boxes. In the first box, a little inked fox. In the second, a tiny coffee cup. The third was blank. The fourth held a small clock. Its hands pointed to 2 and 18. The fifth, sixth, and seventh were empty. Bree took a picture of the Polaroid with her phone and sent it to the officer's email. She did not speak while she typed. I did not either. We went through the apartment inch by inch. No loose screens, no odd glints in outlets, no cameras tucked into plants. Somewhere between the couch and the door, I felt something shift inside me, something that was not panic. It felt like a line of chalk drawn across a floor. This is the line, I said, barely above a whisper. I make the rules of the inside. Bree nodded. Then let's write them down. We did. We wrote new rules on a fresh page. We listed the windows. We listed the door. We wrote who had keys. We wrote the times we were in and out. We wrote the number of the neighbor who knows everyone. We underlined the hours when the laundry room is empty and safe. At 2:10 a.m., I sat on the couch with the lights off and my hands wrapped around a warm mug I did not drink. The street lamp traced a pale band along the wall. The refrigerator hummed. The building breathed its little sounds. At 2:18, my phone, on its face, made the small chime. Twice. A pause. A single, patient vibration. I lifted it. The lock screen remained blank. A reflection moved across the glass. Not a person. The window. The thin curtain shifting from the draft. I stood very slowly and walked to the window. The street outside was empty. The laundry room across the alley glowed with the blue-white of a fluorescent tube. The fox sticker watched the glass. In its curve of tail, I could see my own small reflection, a smudge softened by night. I pressed my fingers to the pane. The glass was cool. The city's breath fogged a circle around my hand. Somewhere in the building, a stair creaked. Not loudly, just enough. I turned my head toward the sound and listened. The creak did not return. The refrigerator clicked off. The apartment gathered itself into a quieter quiet. I looked back at the fox, the little curve of tail, the painted eye. And in the next pane over, just past the sticker, another tiny shape drew itself at the edge of the light. Not a fox, not a person, a mark. 3 lines intersecting. A little asterisk, done in dark pen on the glass itself. I had not seen it earlier. The lines were fresh. The ink still looked wet. Bree, I whispered. She stood beside me in seconds. Sleep dropped from her face. We watched the mark together. What is that? She asked. I shook my head. The mark looked like a star someone would draw next to a date they did not want to forget, or a snowflake, or a reminder. It was nothing, and it was not nothing. We backed away from the window without turning our backs to it. On the coffee table, the smaller notebook lay open to the week grid. 4 boxes now held little drawings. The 5th had been empty when we set it down. It was not empty anymore. A small star had appeared in the Friday box. 5 lines, dark ink, same hand. I touched the page. The ink did not smudge. It had already set. We did not speak for a long time. When Bree finally found her voice, it sounded like a person making a plan in a fire. Tomorrow, she said. We move the couch away from the window, we check the stairwell camera, we talk to the super, and we ask the library for that class flyer. Tonight, we sit together. I nodded. The rules of the inside were not about winning. They were about staying. The cup in my hands had cooled. I set it down. In the quiet, the small chime did not come again. Morning would bring the ordinary. Buses, email, a door to open and lock. I would let the ordinary hold me for a while. Then I would walk to the laundry room across the alley and look at the new mark on the glass. I would see if it had bled in the rain or dried without a drop out of place. And if the little star remained, I would have to choose whether to wipe it away or to leave it, just for one more day, to learn what kind of person I was when the thing watching me preferred to be patient. Soft footsteps in the stairwell paused on our landing. A polite knock sounded once on our door. Only once. Bree and I stood in our socks, listening to our heartbeat and the building's old bones. No second knock came. No voice. We did not open the door. Our peephole gave us a slice of hallway. Beige paint. The iron railing at the landing. The warning sticker about smoke alarms that never sticks on one edge. Nothing else. Nothing moving. We waited until the apartment grew tired of our tension and settled into its usual sounds. Fridge, baseboard tick, the small clack from the bathroom pipe when the upstairs tenant turns off the tap. At 2:26 a.m., I wrote a line in the notebook. 2:26. One knock. No voice. Writing felt like placing a line of sandbags between me and the water. We slept with the lamp on. Morning came in two colors. Pale overcast outside the curtains. Warm lamplight that made the room feel smaller, safer. I do better in small rooms now. By 9, we had our plan. Move the couch away from the window, talk to the super, ask the neighbor across the hall if he saw anyone, then the laundry room, then the library's privacy flyer. Food first, Bree said, already tying her hair. We do nothing on an empty stomach. Stalkers do not get to make us skip breakfast. We ate toast at the counter with the kettle hiss filling the silence. I kept glancing at the door. The knob did not move. The chain hung calm. Ready? Bree asked. I was not. I nodded anyway. We opened the door together like divers stepping off a dock. The hallway offered its soft detergent smell and the distant cough of the elevator. No package on the mat this time, no shadow. Our neighbor's plant had dropped 2 dry leaves in the night and they lay like little boats by his door. Across from us, Mr. Cardoza's door cracked open. He is 70 and collects baseball caps with bird logos. Today's cap showed a wren. I almost laughed at that, thin and shaky. Everything okay? He asked, voice low. Heard your buzzer late. Delivery, Bree said. Twice. He frowned. At that hour? We called the non-emergency line, I said. They did a drive-by. He shifted the cap forward, thinking. Saw a man at the bottom of the stairs. Could be the delivery. He tapped the cap brim. Tall, navy jacket, hands in pockets. Looked up, looked down, left. Didn't press anything. I told him vestibule was closed after 10. He left. Thank you, I said. He nodded once, then looked at our door, then at me. You girls want an extra chain? I have one in a drawer. From my old unit. Good screws. We would, Bree said gently. Please. He gave us the chain and a small bag of screws as if passing down a family recipe. Call me if the buzzer hits after 10 again, he said. I sleep light. We thanked him. He closed his door with a hush. The laundry room comes next on the plan. Our building's basement sits half below street level. You go down 2 flights. The air grows cooler by each landing. The light changes from warm bulbs to the blue that makes whites look whiter than they are. The door to the laundry room has a little square window. Someone taped a smiling moon sticker near its corner years ago. It has faded to the color of milk. We entered with shoulders aligned. The room gave us its soft scent of soap and the damp whisper of 2 dryers. Nobody inside. A table held a stack of folded towels with a note that said free. On the far window that looks across the alley, the fox sticker sat in its usual place. Beside it, on the next pane, the tiny star waited. Bree stepped closer. "It is on the glass," she said. "Outside, not inside." We both leaned in. The star was indeed drawn on the outer surface. Fine pen, firm hand, the lines clean. The ink had not run in the night. "Marker?" I asked. "Oil-based," she said. "It sits like paint. See the sheen." We stood there longer than made sense, looking through our own reflections in the glass. Above the shining dryers, we were mirrored back, two women in hoodies and sneakers, eyes too alert for laundry. "Do we clean it?" Bree asked. I thought about leaving it. I thought about how it would feel to see it every time I sorted lights from darks. I thought about feeling watched by a drawing that should be nothing. "Clean it," I said. She found cleaner and a roll of blue shop towels under the sink, then slipped outside by the side door. I stayed inside with the window and watched the star in case it moved by itself. That is not how ink works. It is how fear thinks. She wiped once, twice. The star smeared to a blur, then vanished. She showed me the towel. A small black bloom in the paper. The fox sticker remained. Its eye looked back at the tidy room in a friendly way. A mascot for the machines. We checked the alley on our way back in. Nothing but 2 bins and a bottle tossed on its side. A delivery truck idled around the corner, driver speaking into a handheld in a language I could not place. Somewhere far, a dog barked like a metronome. The city keeps time. Upstairs, we moved the couch away from the window by the width of my hand. The room changed shape by that small measure. Distance helps. Then we set the extra chain on the inside of the door. Bree held the little bag. I held the drill. The screws bit the wood with a sound that could wake a house, but Mr. Cardoza did not bang on the wall. He knows good sounds from bad. When we finished, I put my palm against the chain's cool length and felt something steadying pass into me. It is not a true safety, I know. Locks are agreements, but agreements matter. At 10:45, we walked to the library, cloud cover held. The air smelled like rain it might or might not deliver. I like the weight of a day like that. It presses gently on the head and tells you to keep your voice soft. We asked at the desk for the privacy class flyer. The librarian with the silver hair and the long cardigan slid a thin stack from a drawer. "This one?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Could I email the instructor?" She smiled. "You can. The class fills. Take 2 tabs, just in case you lose one." We thanked her and chose the corner table again. Today the printer behaved. My email behaved. The cursor did not move without my hand. When I looked up, he stood 2 rows away in the stacks. Navy jacket, hands in pockets, the man who had watched doors and stickers 2 days ago. He faced the shelf now and tilted his head to read the spines. He might have been looking for a true crime paperback. He might have been looking for a book on birding. He might have been looking for nothing at all. I felt the heat I get under the skin when alarm arrives. It moves from throat to ears to hands. I do not like that feeling. It makes me feel like a candle that forgot its wick. "Bathroom," I whispered to Bree. 2 minutes. I stood and walked past the stacks in the opposite direction from the man. The library smells like dust and the bright ink of childhood books and the soft chemical of recent carpet shampoo. The hall to the restrooms is narrow and carries voices in strange ways. I washed my hands longer than needed. I watched the water slide over my knuckles and made my breathing like the water, even, useful. When I stepped back into the main room, a soft voice called, "Excuse me?" The librarian, the same woman in the cardigan, lifted a hand. "You left your notebook," she said, then lowered her voice. "Also, do you want me to walk you out later?" I blinked. "Why?" "Because you looked at the same shelf 3 times and never took a book, and your eyes are doing the scan people do when something is wrong." I smiled without meaning to. "I saw a man in a jacket," I said. and fear does math with weak numbers. She nodded as if I had answered a question on a test and earned partial credit. "If you want company," she said, "use the side exit near the genealogy room. It puts you closer to the bus stop and under the camera." "Thank you," I said. "I do not know if I am overreacting." "Overreacting is for fire alarms and bad headlines," she said. "This is noticing. Noticing is free." I carried that sentence back to the table like a warm cup. The man was gone when I sat. Bree had drawn a small fox in the margin of her planner and given it a speech bubble that said, "Privacy class. Tonight." We laughed under our breath and set alarms for 6. Back home, the day moved like a trolley. The same loop, a few stops, the same soft ding at each corner. I sent emails. I watered the plant that always leans toward the glass. Bree napped before her shift. I watched a video about sourdough that made my kitchen feel useful. At 5:40, I put on a jacket and tucked the privacy tab into my pocket. The class met at the community center 3 blocks from the library. The building used to be a school. The floors still remember morning lines and quiet bell drills. The hallway smells like floor wax and gym air, even when the gym doors are closed. 12 people gathered in a room with a whiteboard and a crock-pot of coffee. An instructor in a dark sweater smiled at each person who came through the door. Her name tag said, May. She wrote 3 words on the board: footprints, boundaries, routine. "We are not here to turn you into hackers," she said. "We are here to show you what you already leave behind and how to choose what you leave next." Her voice had the kind of calm that takes years to build. She did not talk down. She walked through settings with a projector. She handed out a worksheet with boxes you could check with a pen. Phones stayed in bags. Pens clicked. When she reached the slide about 2-factor authentication, she paused. "You will hate this," she said, smiling. "You will do it anyway. Hate is fine. Safety is better." People laughed. The woman beside me sniffed. The man in the corner cracked his knuckles quietly. I kept glancing at the door. I did not want to. My body wanted to. At the break, I approached May with the worksheet and my tab. "I received packages," I said. Not threatening. Creepy. "A notebook with my name, a Polaroid that shows my living room. I think someone is testing my rules." May listened like a person reads a recipe. Close. Practical. "Save the labels," she said. "Document everything. Photographs, dates, times. Do nothing you cannot repeat to a stranger later without shame. If you can afford it, buy a small camera for the hallway. If you cannot, ask your super about a shared one. Do not feed the contact any attention. Do not respond, not even to scold. Your attention is currency." I nodded. The packages said Wren and Company, stationers, a P.O. box. "Mail drops exist for many reasons," she said. "All of them make you feel small. You are not small." "Last night the buzzer sounded," I said. "The voice used my name, then said the sender's name, then left." May tilted her head. "Did the voice know your last name?" "No," I said. "Only first." "Good," she said. "That is one wall still standing." She reached into a folder and gave me a small card that said neighborhood advocate with a phone number and a first name. "If you need a chaperone to walk home any night, text this number by 9. Ask for Rhea. She is patient and taller than fear." I almost cried at that. "Thank you," I said. "Also," she said, tapping the worksheet, "turn off push notifications for everything after 10. You decide when the world speaks, not the world." I walked home at 9:20 with the worksheet folded in my coat pocket. The street felt normal. Porch lights, a cat stepping along a fence, 2 teenagers laughing too loud in hats with their school logo. I let the ordinary wash over me. I let it stick. Bree was due back at 11. I made tea and put on the small lamp near the couch. The room felt different with the couch a hand's width from the glass. It felt like a person who had taken one step away from the edge of a pool and decided the ground was still there. At 9:50, I turned off push notifications. The phone went quiet in a new way, like a faucet shut off. I could still pull messages, but they would not reach for me first. At 10:12, our buzzer spoke. The sound scattered my calm like birds. I went to the intercom and placed my finger on the square. I did not press. I waited. 1 breath, 2, 3. "Delivery," a woman's voice said, the same bright tone as the last time. "Package for Lena." I pressed the square. "Who is the sender?" "Wren and Company Stationers," she said. "We did not order," I said. "Leave it in the vestibule, no signature required." "Company policy," she said. "Signature." "Not tonight." Silence. Then a light, almost amused. "Lucky you." And the line clicked dead. I watched the peephole. A shape moved down the stairwell. A shoulder, the top of a cap, the front door side closed. I let my breath out slowly. I waited 2 minutes, then 3. The vestibule held a thin parcel this time, smaller than the last. I did the landing trick with the broom handle and pulled it up the last stair by the corner of tape. The tape lifted easy, as if someone had pressed it down but not too hard. Inside lay a single cardboard mailer. No notebook, no crinkle paper, no scent of penny. A flat envelope sat inside the mailer. Black, heavier paper. My name on the front in the same block hand. The back flap had an embossed wren with a twig in its beak. I opened it with the butter knife. My hands did not shake. If they had, the paper would still have parted. Inside lay a single sheet and a small metal charm. The charm was the size of my thumbnail and shaped like a tiny key. The paper held a printed calendar week like the smaller notebook. In the Friday box, the small star. In the Saturday box, a small key. In the Sunday box, empty space. Under the grid, the same neat hand had written, "Rules help." I follow them. Tonight, no entry. Saturday, stairwell, 218. I felt my mouth go dry. The shape of the words made my head hum. I heard my blood in my ears, even with the room so quiet. Bree texted then. 2 blocks away. "Do you want anything sweet?" I sent back. "Come up fast. No stops." Then I held the small key charm and tried to decide if it was heavier than it looked, or if fear had hands on the scale. At 11, Bree stepped in with her cheeks pink from the cold and a paper bag of cookies. I showed her the envelope and the tiny key. She stared for a long time and then pulled out her phone to photograph everything. She sent the photos to the officer's email and to May's public address. She is quick like that. It keeps my mind from running in circles. "Saturday," she said. "Stairwell, 218. He wants a meeting." "He wants a rule to feel real," I said. "We choose our own rules," she answered. We made a plan for Saturday. Not a trap, not a confrontation. A plan for how we would be in our own doorway at 2:15, with the chain on, with the lights off, with the phone camera pointed at the peephole. The phone would be on silent. The clock would be in view. We would not speak first. We would not open. We would not give attention beyond noticing and documenting. Before that, I said, we talked to the super about a hallway camera and a brighter bulb over the stairs, Bree said. No one gets to be a shadow in our house. She took the tiny key and set it on the table. It made a soft metal sound. Keys always make me think of doors I have not seen yet. We cleaned up the paper and tucked the envelope into a file I labeled with the date. We put the little key charm in a glass dish by the couch. We sat on the rug and ate cookies without talking. Sometimes, a person needs sugar to anchor the body to the room. At 1:57, we turned off the lamp. The room changed shape again. Streetlight made a faint ribbon across the floorboards. Our eyes learned the outlines. The couch, the table, the plant reaching always toward the window. At 2:14, I moved to the door and placed my phone's camera lens against the peephole, then set the phone to record. Bree stood at my shoulder. The chain lay across the bracket like a calm hand. At 2:18, the stairwell creaked, not like a stalk, like a person who knows stairways and hates to make noise. A shape filled the peephole. The top of a cap, a jacket collar. The brim blocked the face. He adjusted his stance. Then a sound. Not the knock, not the buzzer. A whistle. 2 notes. Soft, patient. The same 2 notes, then a pause. Then again. He did not speak. He did not try the knob. He did not demand. He let the 2 notes float and settle like a small bird landing on a rail. I felt the sound in my back teeth. There is a place there where fear stores itself. I held the phone steady. Bree held my elbow steady. The chain did not move. The 2 notes came once more. The shape shifted. A small click, as if a metal charm met the railing. A step back. The cap brim lifted. For a fragment of a second, an eye met the peephole glass. I could not see color, only the shape. Then the shape turned away. The stairs spoke their soft sound. The door far below sighed. We stayed in our positions for 1 full minute, then another. I stopped the recording. My thumb left a fog on the glass. "What now?" Bree whispered. "We keep the rule," I said. "We write the note. We tell the story as if to a stranger. From the window, the alley offered us nothing new. The fox sticker watched the laundry machines as they spun calmly. The pane where the star had been showed only rain spots and the faint line where a squeegee once passed. On the table, the tiny key lay on its side in the dish. I could see my small reflection on its curved head. I leaned closer without touching it. Across the surface, scratched so fine you would miss it in stronger light, a mark, not letters, not numbers, the small asterisk, 5 lines. Something had been added while we listened at the door. The asterisk on the tiny key was shallow, almost shy, but it had weight anyway. Bree leaned close, phone light angled low. "That wasn't here before," she said. I nodded. The scratch wasn't old. No dust, no softness on the edges. It was a mark made for now. "He left it," I whispered. "He knew we'd notice." We documented. Photos, date, time, angle. Bree is good at that, quick and steady, like she's writing police reports no one asked for. She saved them to 2 drives, one for us, one for the folder. The folder is what we'd show to anyone official if this became more than creeping. When we finished, we set the key back down in the dish. It looked small, less threatening in glass. But glass is only honesty. It doesn't change what's inside. At sunrise, we both tried to sleep. The walls felt too thin. My body held on to the sound of those 2 whistled notes. They played in the gaps of my thoughts, filling silence the way water seeps into cracks. By noon, I gave up. I opened my laptop, and there at the top of my inbox sat a new message. No subject line, no sender name I recognized, just the email address *5@protonmail.com. My stomach pulled tight. Bree leaned over my shoulder. "Don't open it." But the curiosity had already burned a hole in my caution. I clicked. Inside, only 1 sentence. "The rules are good. They keep us safe. Rule 4. Write back. No threats, no demands, just that." Bree's hand squeezed my wrist. "Delete it." I didn't. Instead, I printed it and slipped the paper into the file with the envelope, the notebook, the photos. If he wanted a record, I'd make one. But I wouldn't follow his rule. Not yet. That night, the quiet came back. No buzzer, no knock, no whistle in the stairwell. Just the apartment doing what apartments do. Breathing, creaking, waiting. But at 3:03 a.m., my phone lit on the nightstand. No sound, just a glow. A text, unknown number, 5 stars, nothing else. I showed Bree in the morning. She didn't say anything. She just wrote in her planner, 303, stars, then underlined it twice. We tried to live normal that day. We failed in small ways. Bree carried the chain bag with her, even though the chain was already screwed in. I jumped when the kettle clicked off. The plant on the windowsill leaned too far toward the light, and I pushed it back against the frame like it might tip us both over the edge. By dusk, we knew we couldn't stay in routine. We needed eyes outside ours. "Let's call May," I said, "the privacy instructor." Bree nodded. We emailed. She answered in under an hour. "Bring everything. Come to the center, room 2B, 9 p.m. So we did. The room was smaller than last time, a circle of folding chairs. Coffee again, but this time darker, bitterer. May sat with her notebook open on her lap. 2 others sat in the circle, an older man with a scar down his cheek, a woman in a red sweater with eyes that did not blink enough. "This is support night," May said gently. "We share. We advise. No one is alone." I laid out the file, the notebook, the Polaroid, the envelope, the key with its scratch, the printed email. The man with the scar leaned forward, studying everything like evidence. The woman in the red sweater whispered, "Classic escalation." May stayed calm. "He's writing rules for you. He wants you to feel like you're in the same game." I nodded. My throat felt tight. "But I don't want to play." "Good," she said. "Then don't. Write your own rule." That night, back in our apartment, Bree and I sat at the table. The lamp was on low. The key lay between us. "What's our rule?" she asked. I thought for a long time. Then I wrote in my notebook, big and clear, Rule 1, we do not answer. Bree added her own below it. Rule 2, we are never alone in this. We left the notebook open on the table. Not hidden, not for him, for us. At 2:18 the next night, the stairwell creaked again. The whistle came. 2 notes. Pause. 2 notes. But this time, another sound followed. A soft scrape at our door. Metal against wood. Like a key that didn't fit the lock, the scrape at the door started soft. A metal whisper. Then a patient drag that set my teeth on edge. Not a knock, not a rattle, a test. Bree pressed her palm to the chain. I held the phone steady to the peephole. The stairwell light hummed. Our breathing found the same slow rhythm. The scrape paused. A faint click followed, like metal finding an edge and giving up. Then the 2 notes again. Gentle, almost polite. We did not answer. The shape beyond the peephole leaned away. Cloth shifted. A cap brim tilted. I caught one blurred eyelid. No color, just contour. The sound of a shoe turning stairs once, twice. The door below sighed. The building folded itself back into quiet. I stopped the recording. My hands shook a little now that the moment had passed. Fear does that. Steady first, shake after. Add it, Bree whispered. I wrote in the notebook on the table. 2:18, scrape at lock. 2 notes, retreat. I underlined scrape. We replayed the clip with the volume low. The phone picked up the light brush of metal and the small air of the whistle. The picture through the peephole stretched the hallway into a fishbowl. The cap filled the frame for a second, then nothing. File copies, Bree said. She moved with the tidy speed she gets when nerves try to sprint. Email to the officer, carbon copy to May, a line to Mr. Cardoza. We keep our circle small and exact. The key charm still sat in the glass dish. We left it there. Some things need to be where you can see them. We did not sleep, not really. We sat on the rug until the sky grayed. We drank water, then tea, then water again. When dawn finally pressed a pale hand against the window, the room softened. The plant leaned toward the light like it always does. The ordinary came back and put its arm around our shoulders. By noon, we had a list. Super. Hallway camera and brighter bulb. Locks. Replace cylinder. Check strike plate. Add hinge pins. Stairwell map. Count steps. Corners. Camera sight lines. Practice. What we do and in what order. If the buzzer, the knock, or the scrape returns. Talk to the neighborhood advocate May mentioned. Rhea. We started with the super. His office is a narrow room off the lobby that smells like graphite and old coffee. He wears navy coveralls with his name stitched in a red oval. Today, he had a tiny screwdriver tucked behind his ear. Camera on this floor? I asked. We will help with cost if needed. He considered. Budget is tight. Then he looked at our faces and nodded to himself. I can move the lobby spare up for a week. See if it helps. Motion triggered. Records to a card. And a brighter bulb over the stairs, Bree added. He smiled at that. That one I can do now. He handed us a spare key to the laundry closet. You can stand in the hall while I change it. No dark corners on my watch. We stood by the landing while he swapped in a brighter bulb. The light lifted the shadows from the railing and the numbers on the exit sign. You could see the texture in the paint now. A little crack that runs from the hinge to the molding. I had never noticed it. I notice everything now. He turned to the lock next. You two have the chain. Good. I'll replace the cylinder. Longer screws in the strike plate. Makes the frame hold better. The sound of the drill filled the hall. A good, honest sound. He tested the new key twice and then placed it in my palm. It felt heavier than the one he removed. Good weight helps. Anyone else with door access? He asked. Just us and you, I said. And Mr. Cardoza, Bree added. For emergencies. The super nodded. Cardoza is the person you want for emergencies. He lowered his voice. You can also call me after hours if the buzzer nonsense starts again. He slid a card with his cell number across his desk. We look out for each other here. We thanked him. Small kindnesses hold a building together better than grout. After lunch, we met Rhea. The advocate May connected us to waited under the elm by the community center. Tall, hair in a tight coil, boots that looked like they could walk 10 miles without complaint, a canvas tote over one shoulder, and a folded umbrella clamped under her arm. You're Lena, she said, warm but direct. And you're Bri. I'm Rhea. We'll walk your routes. I'll show you where the cameras are and where they aren't. We'll build you a map you can feel with your feet. We liked her at once. She took us down our usual streets, but made us switch sides where the sight lines got better. She pointed out the blue glow above a pharmacy door. Camera there. If you need to, step into that cone of light and make a call. She tapped the corner of a laundromat. Another camera. Owner keeps his lens clean. She knocked on the casing of a bodega window. Mirror hides a lens, it's live. She showed us where sidewalks dip, where tree roots can trip you if you move too fast. All of it felt practical. None of it felt like panic. And if someone hums or whistles near you, she said, a half smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, keep moving. Do not match the song. Do not give rhythm back. 2 notes, I said. I whistled them, low and soft. Rhea listened. Copy of a wren call, she said. Common, short, easy to hide inside a city. He thinks it's clever. Wren, Bree said, very quiet. We stood there a moment, the 3 of us in the mild afternoon, listening to the regular noise of traffic and a kid dragging a scooter along the curb. The world makes a lot of sounds that mean nothing. You can live a whole life in them. You're not alone, Rhea said. You have tools, you have neighbors. And if you want company walking at night this week, text me by 9. I'm nearby. On the way back, we stopped at the library. The silver-haired librarian saw the 3 of us and gave a small nod like she already knew we were making a plan. Noticing is free. I keep hearing that. We checked the bulletin board. A new flyer had been taped to the corner, hand-lettered in a neat block. Neighborhood Watch Meetup, Thursday, Bring notes. I tore a tab and wrote the time in our planner. On our door when we returned, tucked above the peephole like a hat, a sticky note waited. Plain yellow. Block letters again. The same neat hand. Tonight, no mail. Sunday letter. No signature. No flourish. Just a schedule. We photographed it. Then we pulled it down with tweezers and slid it into the file. He likes calendars, Bry said. And rules, I said. He wants the rhythm to tell us how to breathe. We pick the tempo, she answered. We made soup, simple. Carrots, noodles, salt. The kind of food that feels like a hand on your back. We ate early and ran the dishwasher even though it was only half full. We wanted the hum. We wanted the clink and settle of plates. When the sun went down, the brighter stair bulb cast a clean oval onto our floor whenever the door opened. I liked that shape. It looked like a small stage. We kept the chain latched. We set the phone where it could see the peephole without a hand to hold it. We practiced the steps of our plan. Speak if spoken to. Do not open. Write it down after. Breathe. 2:18 came and went with no buzzer, no knock, no scrape. The phone remained a dark rectangle, my chest unclenched by the smallest notch. Not safety. A pause. Sunday would bring his letter, if the sticky note could be trusted. I do not trust sticky notes, but I also do not ignore them. Saturday morning we cleaned. The kind of cleaning that makes a room feel like it belongs to you again. Baseboards. Under the couch. We lifted the rug and found a dime and a paper clip and a small button the color of sky. The dime went into a bowl. The paperclip went into a jar. I rolled the button in my palm and put it in a drawer. The drawer is where I put things I could lose on purpose. By afternoon, we were tired enough to nap. I fell into a dream where every hinge in the building sang a different note, and I had to learn the tune to find my door. When I woke, my throat felt dry. The plant had inched closer to the glass again, as if it had a teacher who marked its posture. We kept our phones quiet after 10 and slept early. The small chime did not wake me. I woke on my own at 2:16 and listened to the house sit around us. On Sunday, we did not leave the building. We told Mr. Cardoza we would be home and listening. He nodded in a way that said he would be too. The day was slow and gray. I read. Bree cooked rice and set some aside for later. The hallway bulb hummed when someone passed. I liked that tone. I could tell which neighbor it was by the cadence of steps. The couple on 3 walks together and speaks in low voices. The man with the heavy toolbox pauses at the landing and adjusts his grip. Mr. Cardoza whistles small fragments of songs from the 70s and taps his cap brim when he reaches his door, like a personal ritual. At dusk, the lobby camera went in. The super showed us the live view on his phone. Not fancy, he said, but better than nothing. The frame captured the vestibule, the inner door, and half the mailboxes. The lens distorted the edges. I could see the shine of our doormat upstairs if I squinted. There is comfort in grainy pictures. They make the world look held. We ate early again, soup and rice together. It tasted like a safe winter. We washed the bowls by hand because I wanted to hear the sound of water in the room. Sound fills space that worry would take. 11 o'clock, midnight, 1:30. I wrote the hours on a small card and put a dot next to each as they passed. At 2:12, the stair light came on. Footsteps with no whistle. A wait paused at our landing. I set the phone to record. Bree's fingers brushed the chain, a touch that said I am here. At 2:14, an envelope slid under the door. Not pushed hard, guided, 4 inches at a time. The paper made a gentle sigh against the floorboards. Then the weight stood still. I could sense the presence on the other side, the quiet of someone listening for our listening. The peephole showed the cap brim and a tilt of cheek. We did not speak. The presence shifted. The steps retreated. The light went out. We waited 1 minute, then one more. I picked up the envelope with 2 fingers and set it on the table like it could tilt. It was heavy, but not thick. Inside, when we opened it, lay a single page and something that pinged against the glass dish when I tipped the envelope. Another charm. Not a key this time. A tiny star cut from steel, dull and cold. A twin to the inked mark on the window, only metal now and personal. The page held a week grid again. Hand-printed, Monday through Sunday. In each box, a small drawing. Monday, the fox. Tuesday, a coffee cup. Wednesday, a whistle. Thursday, a lock. Friday, the star. Saturday, the key. Sunday, an eye. Beneath the grid, in that same careful hand, we keep rules. Rule 5, see without noise. 2:18, 3 nights, you choose the door. Bree read it twice. Then she looked at me. He wants us to open, she said. He wants a scene, I said. We will not give him one. We added the page to the file. We photographed the charm and slid it into the dish next to the key. The 2 pieces looked like a child's necklace lost and found. I felt something like anger then, small and clean. Not heat, not rage. A steadiness that said, you may set rhythms, but we choose the dance. We wrote new rules. Rule 3, we do not open at his times. Rule 4, we document and decide in the day. Then we set our own signal, not the stairwell, not the door, not 2:18. We chose 3:30 in the afternoon, when the light in our living room is thin and honest, and the hallway is busy with normal people doing normal things. We left a note on the inside of our door as if for ourselves. Tuesday, 3:30. Talk to the super. Talk to the librarian. Talk to Rhea. Not him. We slept, and I dreamed of a tiny bird that kept stepping along a line of chalk and tilting its head to see if the chalk would move. Monday passed without new sounds. The buzzer stayed quiet. The super waved from the lobby and pointed at the camera, a thumbs up that looked like a candle flame. We bought groceries and said hello to the cashier with the blue hair who always double bags eggs. The ordinary held. On Tuesday at noon, May replied to our Sunday email. A short note. Proud of you both. Keep the file neat. Do not give the meeting he wants. Choose public light. I printed it and slid it into the folder. Small papers can feel like armor when you keep them together. At 3:10, Rhea texted, I can walk your hall at 3:30 if you like. I said yes. Her yes felt like a hallway light of its own. We stood inside with the chain on as she came up the stairs, humming a tune I did not recognize, then stopping so we would not mistake it for his 2 notes. She knocked twice in a clear pattern. We opened with the chain across. Ready? She asked. Ready, we said. We did not open all the way. We talked through the gap. She described where she would stand on the landing so our peephole could see her entire shape. She asked us to rehearse what we would say to anyone who tried to ask for a signature or a package or a minute of our time. We practiced keeping our voices calm. We practiced ending the conversation on our own terms. The practice felt strange, and then it felt useful. Halfway through, Mr. Cardoza opened his door and lifted his cap. Afternoon, ladies, he said, eyes kind. He held up a new chain in a little box. Spare, in case a friend needs it. Rhea grinned. We want him on our team, she said, and Mr. Cardoza's grin matched hers. We closed the door and sat on the floor with our backs to it. I felt the grain of the wood through my shirt. I liked that too. Real things have texture. Fear makes everything feel smooth and slippery. Texture gives your hands a place to hold. That night, we slept with the notebook open to our rules. Our rules, not his. 2:18 came and went. The house held. I woke to a thin thread of light along the curtains and the smell of rain that had finally done what it promised for days. Drops ticked at the glass. The plant looked pleased. I went to the window and slid the curtain a finger width. There on the laundry room window across the alley, next to the fox, next to the pane where the star had been, a new shape had appeared. Not ink, paper. A small rectangle of card taped to the glass from the outside, right up against the pane. The rain dotted its surface and made the edges curl a little, but the words were still clear. "Lena," the card said, "kindness keeps you safe. Choose the door that sees the most light. No signature, no time, no star, just the promise of a choice." A soft tap sounded then. Not at our door, at the upstairs window. Not a knock. A sound like a finger brushing the glass where the condensation pools. I looked up. A small shadow crossed the frosted pane above the stair landing. Then it was gone. The phone on the table lit for a second with a new email banner. I had turned notifications back on during the day and forgotten to silence them. The sender line showed a name this time, not an asterisk. Evan. The subject read simply, "Rules," feathered cliffhanger. I did not open it. I closed my eyes and listened for the two notes. The building held its breath. The rain kept speaking. The email waited like a door I did not have to touch. I didn't open Evan's email. I printed the subject line instead, one word, "Rules," and slipped it into the file with the others. Bree called it "feeding the folder," and the phrase stuck. The folder had become its own kind of pet. Hungry, always waiting for new scraps of proof. The rain lasted through morning, tapping the windows like fingers that didn't want to be let in. I made tea. Bree paced. The card taped to the laundry window across the alley sagged in the wet. The words still showed, soft but clear. Kindness keeps you safe. Choose the door that sees the most light. We didn't touch it. Not yet. At noon, the library felt warmer than usual, heavy with damp coats and umbrellas left open too close to shelves. The silver-haired librarian spotted me at the door, her cardigan dark at the cuffs where she'd carried in something wet. "Notice is free," she said, smiling faintly, "but notice with company costs less." I followed her to the reference desk, where she'd set aside a small black notebook. "Someone left this in the drop box. No card. I thought it was yours." I shook my head. "Not mine." She tapped the cover. "Then you should see the first page." I opened it. Block letters again. "For Lena. New rules soon." The paper was dry, the ink fresh. The rain hadn't touched it. That night, Bree and I sat with the dish between us. The key charm. The star charm. Now the notebook. The pile looked like tokens from a board game we hadn't agreed to play. "He wants us to choose," Bree said. "Light or dark, open or closed." "And he's watching to see if we answer," I said. "We made a new rule. Rule 5. We don't play choices we didn't write." Bree underlined it twice. At 2:18, the sound came again. Not the whistle. Not the scrape. A soft flutter. Paper sliding under our door. We waited, counted, listened, then checked the peephole. The hall was empty. On the floor lay a white envelope, damp at the corners from rain caught on clothes. Inside, a single sheet, folded. On it, a weak grid as before. This time, the boxes weren't drawings. They were words. Monday, notice. Tuesday, listen. Wednesday, wait. Thursday, kind. Friday, open. Saturday, light. Sunday, see. At the bottom, in the same neat hand, your turn to write. Morning came pale and watery. We went to the community center. May read the page without touching it. "Escalation," she said softly. "He wants reciprocity. If you write, you enter the rhythm. If you don't, he may break it." "What do we do?" I asked. She thought a long time. "You write your own rules, but only for yourselves, not for him." That night, Bree taped a sheet of paper to the inside of our door. Large letters in her sharp hand. Our rules, ours only. 1. No answering. 2. Never alone. Third document. 4. Decide in daylight. 5. No choices we didn't write. She smoothed the tape. If he wants words, he can look at these. We sat back, waited. The building ticked with heat in the pipes. At 2:18, no whistle, no scrape, no paper, only silence pressing close, like a held breath. I almost relaxed, until the phone lit. A text, unknown number again. This time not stars, not rules, and only 2 words. Kind door. The text sat on my screen like a small coin. Kind door, a phrase that sounded gentle and felt anything but. Bree read it twice, lips pressed thin. He wants you to choose, she said. He wants control to feel like courtesy, I answered. We did what we always do. We fed the folder, screenshot, print, label, date. The folder accepted the new page with its dry little sigh. That sound comforts me now. Paper keeps track when memory starts to blur around the edges. We made tea and moved the couch another finger's width from the window. The plant leaned toward the glass again, like it did not understand rules. Rain ticked at the pane and left slow trails that caught the street lamp and broke it into soft beads. What is a kind door? Bree asked. The one with the most light, I said. His card said that. Choose the door that sees the most light. The lobby, she said. Camera, brighter bulb, neighbors passing. And a lock we do not control, I added. Anyone can walk in when the buzzer gives them a path. We let the kettle steam in place of an answer. When I cannot decide, I pay attention to one sense at a time. Tonight would be hearing. A quiet set with only sounds on stage. No messages, no drawings, no little metal charms. Only the building and the air and how they move. We turned the phone screens face down. We sat without talking. We let the apartment come forward. The refrigerator hummed in its mild key. A car hissed through wet on the street below. A neighbor's shower started 2 floors up and filled our pipes with a dull rush. The stairwell bulb gave a soft electric thread. My pulse in my ears counted my breaths and then slowed. A drip in the sink ticked with regular patience. The building is a choir when you sit still for it. At 11:03, the buzzer sounded 2 floors down. Not ours. A short press. Someone let a friend in, and the door below clicked. Their voices rose and fell. I heard a laugh that did not belong to anyone on our floor. The building swallowed them. The stair settled again. Midnight arrived without any special announcement. It just was. We kept the lamp on low and set our 2 chairs to face the door, the chain laid across like a bracelet. The peephole watched the landing with its fish eye. The camera upstairs watched the vestibule with its grainy patience. The new bulb drew a clean oval on our floor whenever the hallway light woke. I like that oval. It is honest. It tells you when someone has entered the picture. At 1:08, a soft roll of thunder far away. The rain paused like a listener and then returned. I saw the Fox sticker across the alley shine in a small puddle of light and then dim again. At 1:37, the elevator coughed at the end of the hall and then remembered itself. Old machines do that. Little self-checks that sound like worry. I tried to feel fondness instead of nerves. It helped. At 1:59, Bree spoke for the first time in an hour. We can go down, she said. We can sit in the lobby and listen there. If there is a kind door, it is the one with the camera. I nodded. No midnight walks, I said, and we both smiled a little. The joke helped. We put on jackets and left the chain on the inside latch so we could close quickly and set it again. The stair felt cooler than the apartment. The brighter bulb smoothed the shadows down. The landing carried a faint scent of rain and soap from someone's laundry. Mr. Cardoza's door had a new note on it in his tidy hand. Call if you need me. Light sleeper. The kindness put weight in my chest where worry usually floats. The lobby carried a different sound set. Wind under the main door. The small slap of rain against the glass. The camera's tiny click as its sensor woke. A vending machine hummed without the change rattling inside. We chose 2 chairs with a clear view of the entrance and the mailboxes. The super had polished the floor that morning. It still held a half shine from his mop. We sat with our hands around paper cups of tea from our thermos. We watched the door like people watch water boil. It tends to when you stop caring if it will. 2 notes, Bree said under her breath. Say them quietly. I did. The little wren call, up, down. The sound wore its harmless coat again in an open room. Notice is free, I said, and she tilted her head in agreement. At 2:12, the camera gave its tiny tick. A shape crossed the glass and stopped out of frame where the awning dripped in a steady line. We could not see a face. A cap brim moved at the bottom edge, not ours. The main door remained closed. The buzzer did not sound. We waited and did not shift our feet. At 2:14, the buzzer finally breathed its rough little tone. A single short press. Not our unit. The house phone on the wall behind the boxes did not ring. No one answered. The shape out of frame did not move. At 2:16, a second press. Longer. The house phone rang gray and polite. We did nothing. The super's after-hours line might be awake, or not. I do not know the rules of his sleep. At 2:17, the buzzer held a thin single note and then let go. The camera clicked again. The shape stepped back into view. A man in a navy jacket with a cap, water beading on the brim. Hands in pockets. Collar up. He looked at the glass without seeing us. Streetlight pushed his reflection toward us and made his face a smear. He was beautiful in the way smudges can be. You cannot hold a smudge accountable. You can only wipe it or let it stay. He reached into his pocket and took out a small card. He pressed it to the pane and smoothed the tape at the corners with 2 fingers. Then he bent his head toward the buzzer again and did not touch it. He just listened, as if the building might let him in out of sympathy. He turned his face a little then. The camera grabbed a frame where his profile became a shape I might recognize if I wanted it to be one. Nose straight, cheek a little hollow. No beard. The rain made his skin shine in spots. He lifted his right hand to his cap and pushed the brim back. On his index finger, a ring caught the light. Not gold, dark. A band with a narrow ridge around the middle. I thought of Evan's photos, the food truck, the crooked smile, his glasses, his hands holding a paper cup. No ring in those. Maybe he had bought one since. Maybe this was not Evan. Maybe the world has more rings than I can count. At 2:18, the 2 notes arrived. Not a whistle. A hum. Soft. The sound pressed its forehead to the door and waited for an answer that did not come. He lowered his hand. He looked at the camera and then away. He bent and set something on the mat. Not a box, not an envelope. A little black notebook. The same kind we keep. He tapped it once with a fingertip like he was telling it to behave. Then he stepped back under the awning and became rain blur again. We did not move. We did not speak. We counted to 30 and then watched the door. The awning dripped. The notebook sat on the mat like a well-behaved pet. The taped card on the glass blocked a corner of the view. I read it from a small angle. 2 words. Kind door. We waited 1 minute more. I stood and crossed to the glass. I kept my hands visible to the camera like I was talking to a teller behind thick plastic. I did not open. I only bent and angled the card enough to read the small letters along the bottom. The neat hand had printed in pencil. Light is safer. I keep rules. You can too. Back at the chairs, Bree whispered, "He wants a lobby meeting next time." "That is not our rule," I said. We took a picture of the notebook through the glass and sent it to our folder email so it would be waiting upstairs. The camera clicked as if it enjoyed being useful. We sat 2 minutes more and then climbed back to our floor. We set the chain. We boiled the kettle again. Normal actions bring your body back. When we opened the notebook, the first page held a grid similar to the others, not days, places. Door A, lobby. Door B, laundry. Door C, roof. Door D, side alley. I did not like the roof in print. The word opens a room you do not want to stand in at night. The box next to door A held a small star. The box next to door B had a key. Door C was empty like a warning. Door D held a fox. Under the grid, one sentence. Kind door chooses light. Choose light with me. Bree rubbed the bridge of her nose. He is still asking for permission, she said. He is not breaking in. He is not forcing. He is drawing a very careful circle and proving we are inside. He is also proving he reads us, I said. He knows we notice. He knows we document. He keeps the tone safe so he can stay in the house of his own story. We wrote our own sentence on a page in our notebook. We decide where our voice goes. He does not. Then we closed it and left both notebooks on the table, like two people we were not inviting to dinner. I could not sleep after that. The sounds of the building had shifted. Now I heard the camera's little click without being anywhere near it. I heard our new lock hold the frame with a fuller bite. I heard the plant's leaves touch the glass in the draft. I heard a car stop and go and stop and go. A driver undecided between lanes. At 4:02, I did drift. I dreamed of a stair that refused to creak for anyone who meant harm. When I woke, the room had the pale light of a day that would not commit to sun. Bree had made coffee. The steam trailed up in a thin white line I wanted to trace with a finger. We walked to the library after breakfast. The day smelled like wet newspaper. The silver-haired librarian lifted her hand when we came in and pointed to a stack of donations. A man in a navy jacket left books for the sale, she said quietly. I noted the time. The receipt says WRN. I do not know if that is his name or a game. She slid a sticky note across with the minute printed neat. 8:09. Did you see his face? Bree asked. She shook her head. Chapter. Rain. I saw his hands. Not dirty. No scars. A ring on his index finger. She held her own hand up to show where. Dark band. Ridge in the middle. I wrote it down. Details keep you steady. We took the privacy class flyer and stuck it under our magnet at home. May's next session was in 2 nights. We would go and sit under fluorescent lights with people who have learned how to breathe around worry. The hours between lunch and late afternoon were gentle. I answered 2 emails. Bree replaced a battery in the smoke alarm that had started a faint tick. The super came by with a tiny sign for the new camera that read, "Recording for your safety." It made the lobby look official. He looked proud when he pressed it onto the wall. Pride is another kind of light. At 3:30, we met Rhea for a walk around the block. She wore a rain shell that sounded like paper when she moved. She took us past stores we had not noticed and showed us a second route home that stayed under more awnings. Light follows habit, she said. Make the kind habit and let light do the work. Back in our building, the stair bulb hummed as we climbed. The oval of light slid onto our floor. A shadow cut across the oval from above and paused. Shoe, tread, stillness. Rhea glanced up. Someone is holding, she said, voice calm. We do not stop under someone else's stillness. We returned to the lobby and waited. After a few minutes, the shadow moved on and the stair settled. We climbed then, 2 flights, and reached our door with our steps steady. On our mat, the black notebook had returned. I do not know when. The tape from the lobby card stuck to its cover like a torn flag. Inside, a new page, a single sentence. Thank you for choosing light with me. I stared at it until my focus went soft. We did not, I said. We did not open. We did not meet. He is writing his own version, Bree said. We photographed the page and set the book in the dish with the small charms. The dish looked silly now, like a child's treasure plate. Key, star, notebook. I wanted to sweep it all into a drawer and close it, but the folder in me would not let me. Evidence needs air. Evening came without a new buzzer press. The rain softened to mist. Mr. Cardoza knocked once and held up a bundle of mint from a pot he keeps on his sill. "For tea," he said, "for sleep." We thanked him like he had handed us a spell. At 9 o'clock, May replied to our last email. "You are holding your line. Keep using light that belongs to you. Do not answer invitations. Let them float past." She included a number for a detective who consults with the center. We printed it and tucked it into the folder's front pocket. 10, 11, midnight. The set stayed sound only. We listened in the dark for the 2 notes and the scrape and the small paper sigh. None came. At 2:18, my phone pulsed once on the table. Not the chime. A silent banner. I had forgotten to silence banners again. A name glowed for a fragment. Evan. Subject line. Kindness. I did not open it. I turned the phone face down. I let the banner go dark. Something near the peephole clicked then. Not the lock. Not the chain. A tiny tap like fingernail to metal. I stood and moved close. The fisheye gave me hallway and oval and grain. Nothing moved. The air felt cooler against the door. I waited 1 minute. Then I cracked the lock, set the chain tight, and opened 2 inches. Just enough to see the top of the door frame. Just enough to see the tiny new piece of metal hooked over our peephole like a ring on a hand. Not a camera, not tape. A little hood. A small black cap that slid over the peephole barrel and covered the lens. It had a symbol etched shallow on the outside. 5 lines. A star. I removed it with 2 fingers and shut the door and set the chain again. The piece felt warm from a palm that had held it seconds earlier. I set it in the dish with the others and watched it sit there like it had always belonged. Bree wrote a line in our notebook. He covers our eye to give us another. Then she drew a small square and wrote inside it, "Lobby camera." "Kind door," she said softly. His phrase. Our rule. We pulled up the lobby camera feed on the super's portal. The timestamp rolled past in its pale numbers. The frame held the outer glass, the mat, the place where taped cards appear. The awning drip drew a thin line that looked like a string. At 2:22, a figure stepped into view and paused in the center where the light is strongest. Navy jacket, chapter, a ring on the index finger. He lifted his head slowly and looked at the camera, not the door, not us. His face came into a muddled focus that holds only edges and habits. The habit I saw first was not his eyes. It was his mouth. The right corner lifted a fraction of a second before the left as he softened his lips into what might have been a smile or might have been a test, a crooked start. Familiar in a way I did not want. The kind of tilt you remember from a food truck photo if you are looking for reasons to fear. He raised his right hand and touched the brim, then lowered it, then held up something small between thumb and first finger. A tiny black cap with a star lightly cut into it. He tilted it once toward the lens, like a person shows a coin to a friend. Then he set it on the mat and stepped back into rain that was almost not there. The feed held for 3 seconds more. A car in the street blinked its turn signal on and off, a steady metronome. In the glass, in that short cycle, I saw our reflections where we sat upstairs at the table. Not really ours. A suggestion. A smear of 2 shapes framed by a room with a plant that leans and a couch that sits a hand farther from the glass than it used to. The kind door kept our picture and gave us his. Not clear enough to swear by, clear enough to change the taste in my mouth. I closed the laptop. The room felt smaller, which helped. "We do not answer," I said. "We are not alone," Bree said. We blew the mint steam across our mugs and let it wash our faces. Feathered cliffhanger. From the hallway, very close and very quiet, the 2 notes came as a hum, and this time a second voice far down the stairs answered them with the same little tune. The hum came again, 2 notes pressed against the door like breath on glass, and then the answer, faint, rising from the stairwell below. The same 2 notes, a twin echo. Bree froze. I counted my pulse in the hollow of my wrist. We had always assumed one watcher, one writer, one hand pressing paper to glass. But the stairwells sang back. We waited, listened. The apartment walls are thin when you want them to be, but now they swallowed the stair like insulation. The echoes died without footsteps. 2 of them, Bree whispered. Or one teaching another, I said. We wrote Rule 6 in our notebook. If there are 2, we still answer none. At dawn, the plant tipped against the window again, leaves wet with condensation. On the alley glass, the fox sticker sagged further, a corner peeled loose, hanging like a tongue. Someone had added tape, fresh, clear, neat. We crossed to the window. The tape was not ours. Under it, in the smallest letters, barely visible through the sticker, "We see you." At noon, we carried the black notebook to the library. The silver-haired librarian was waiting at the desk. She looked at the spine before she looked at us. 2 hands wrote in this, she said quietly. She opened it to the page with the door grid. I saw what she meant. One hand straight, even, neat. The other slanted, heavier, the pencil darker. 2, Bree whispered again. The librarian nodded. Notice how the neat hand places stars. The heavy hand draws the fox. One keeps order, the other follows wild. I wanted to leave it there with her, but she pushed it back across the counter. If it found you, it will return. Better it stays where you can watch it. That night, the lobby camera caught them. 2 shapes under the awning. One with the navy jacket, hands in pockets. The other shorter, hood pulled low, moving restless, shifting weight from foot to foot. The taller one taped another card to the glass. The restless one pressed palms flat against the door, like feeling for heat. We could not hear them, but the camera picked up the mouth of the hooded one moving fast, words spilling like water. The taller one only nodded. When they left, the mat held 2 things. Another notebook, this one red, and a folded sheet scrawled in thicker pencil. The folded sheet read, "Fox waits by dark door. Come if you want the truth." The red notebook opened to a single page. Light is ours, fox is his. Do not mix. 2 hands, 2 rules. Same game. At 2:18, only one hum came. From the door. No echo in the stair. But on our own mat, slid under the chain, a fresh slip of paper. Neat hand. Your move. We swore we wouldn't answer. But silence is its own kind of reply, and some nights silence feels too thin. The slip on our mat read, "Your move." We let it sit for hours, unopened, a small square of weight in the room. By morning, Bree cracked. She slid a fresh page from her planner, tore it clean, and wrote in her sharp hand, "Rule 7. We write only to each other." She taped it to the inside of our door. Not for them, for us. But still, it was words placed where they could see. And that meant the rule was already broken. That night, at 2:18, the hum didn't come. No whistle, no scrape. Only stillness that made the pipes in the walls louder than usual. When I checked the mat at dawn, the page was gone. The tape peeled, edges curled. Our words had been taken. At the library, the silver-haired librarian noticed the absence before I told her. "Once shared, always shared," she said, sliding her glasses down her nose. "A rule left in the open belongs to more than the maker." Her words sat heavy. It meant we had given them something to use. 2 nights later, we learned how. The buzz came at 2:18, long, unbroken. Not the polite doorbell this time, but a held sound, as if a finger pressed down hard and wouldn't lift. Bree leaned close to the peephole. Then she staggered back, hand pressed to her mouth. I looked. Taped to the outside of our door was our own page. Rule 7. We write only to each other. But beneath it, in the heavy hand, they had added, "And we read you too." The next morning, our mailbox held something new. A plain brown envelope, no stamp. Inside, a Polaroid. Not of us, not of the hallway, of the table in our kitchen, the dish, the key, the star, the red notebook, taken from inside. Bree gripped the photo with both hands. "That's impossible," she whispered. "We're always here." We would have heard, but my stomach had already tightened. I knew what it meant. It meant the silence hadn't been silence at all. The Polaroid lay on our table like a small door we had already walked through. It showed the glass dish, the key charm, the star, the red notebook, my spiral pad half open, a faint ring of mint tea on the wood, taken from inside. We stared until the image lost detail and turned into shapes. Then we looked away and the shapes still followed us. Bree set the photo beneath a sheet of plastic in our file. Her fingers were steady. Mine were not. The steadiness felt like something we were borrowing from the folder itself. Paper does not panic. It keeps it square. "How?" she asked. I tried to answer and found no words that did not sound like an excuse. We had changed the cylinder. We had the chain. We had moved the couch, brightened the stair, added the lobby camera, learned new routes, learned new hours, learned a tune we did not want to hear. And still, someone had stood inside our room and aimed a lens at the dish. "We will find it," I said. My voice did not carry confidence, only a promise to try. We called the super first. He arrived with a tool belt and a quiet look. He checked the frame, the strike plate, the hinges. He ran a fingertip around the lock like a person testing a seam on a jar lid. He crouched and studied the gap under the door with a flashlight. "Nothing here," he said. "No pry marks. No fresh splinters. Chain is strong." He checked the windows next. Latches firm, paint unbroken, screens snug. The small window over the sink, the one that offers only a thin rectangle of sky, held a line of dust on the sill. No finger drag, no shift. He ran the fan in the bathroom and held a square of tissue to the vent. The tissue pressed up and fluttered, then fell when he clicked the switch. "No return large enough," he said, "even if someone were smoke." He looked at the radiator and smiled without humor. "No way." He turned slowly, eyes soft like a person reading a room rather than a page. "I believe you," he said. "I cannot write how." He replaced the chain screws with longer ones, even though they were new, the way a person brings water even if the glass is already full. Before he left, he placed a little packet on our table. "Window alarms," he said. "Cheap, loud. Might buy you seconds." Seconds are sometimes the only currency a person needs. When the door closed, the room felt like a place that had been visited by a patient teacher who could not give us the answer on the test. We were grateful anyway. We emailed May next, subject line, interior photo. We attached the Polaroid image, the lobby footage stills, the note with our rule returned in heavy pencil, all of it. She replied 3 hours later with a number and 3 lines. "Detective Rahul Iyer. He consults with the center. Start a case file. Breathe. Eat. Hydrate. Your body is part of your safety plan." It sounded like a checklist for a day in a normal life. We followed it anyway. Water, toast, a bowl of soup reheated until the surface trembled. We ate without tasting. Still, the act helped. Food gives the room a job. At dusk, we called the detective. His voice was flat in the way a street is flat when you know it by each crack. He asked for our rhythms. He asked for the artifacts. He asked for the names we had collected. May, Ria, the silver-haired librarian, the super, Mr. Cardoza. He asked whether we had enemies. We said no, not like that. He asked whether Evan could be Evan in a navy jacket, ring on the index finger. We said we did not know. The food truck photo had no ring. The camera held only blur. The world has more rings than we can count. 2 hands, I said. 2 notes. Sometimes one voice answers another in the stare. He was quiet a beat. You are not wrong to notice, he said. Notice is not fear. Notice is description. He told us he would log the case and ask for the lobby camera card. He said to keep our file neat and our rules visible. He told us to write the times we were out and the times we were in, even if the list made us feel small. After the call, we did what we could do. We made the list. Out for 43 minutes at noon. In by 12:48. Out to the library at 3. In by 4:12. Out with Rhea for the route walk at 5:30. In by 6:20. In all night. That last line looked like a spell we wanted the room to obey. Midnight was different now. It used to feel like a fence. Now it felt like a hallway. Long, narrow. No hiding places if you turn the wrong corner. At 1:07, rain returned to the glass. Not hard. A thin tick. A second sound joined it. The soft pat of a drip near the stair landing. The building sounded like a person who has decided to speak quietly into 2 rooms at once. At 1:39, the elevator breathed its cough and then settled. A pair of footsteps crossed the lobby. The camera clicked. We watched the feed with the sound off. A delivery driver, no cap, no ring. A brown parcel hugged to his chest. He left it for the florist on 2 and left. The world kept doing the world's errands. At 2:10, I turned off our lamps and let the streetlight lay a pale band across the rug. I have learned to measure the width of that band with my eye. It is the distance between feeling owned by the dark and feeling placed gently inside it. At 2:18, nothing. No hum, no whistle, no scrape. The kind of quiet a house holds when it knows you are listening. I stood anyway and set the phone to record at the peephole. Bree stood at my shoulder so the chain would not look lonely over the latch. At 2:21, a small sound under the door. Not paper, not metal, fabric brushing wood. I bent to the gap and saw light where light should not be. The thinnest thread sliding through, as if someone on the other side had stretched a strand under the door and was testing the room with it. The bit of light wavered. I inhaled, and the thread quivered. Bree touched my shoulder. I nodded. We waited. The thread retreated. The gap went dark again. I opened our notebook and wrote, 2:21. Thread of light under door. Withdrawn. It read like a line from a poem a person writes when the image arrives late at night, and you hope it will carry sense in the morning. I did not cross it out. We slept in short pieces until dawn turned the alley into a wet mirror. I reached for my phone and paused. A banner would be glowing if Evan had sent another subject line surprise. The screen stayed blank. My body unclenched one notch. We walked to the library as the doors opened. The silver-haired librarian poured us hot water from a kettle and pretended it was part of her job. We handed her the Polaroid and told her about the thread of light. She listened with her face soft, then bent and reached under the desk. These, she said, placing 2 ovals on the counter. Flat plastic lids the size of a palm with small ridges on top. Bookgate alarms, old models. When you set them under a door, they whine if the door lifts even a breath. They hate being ignored. Her smile reached her eyes this time. We are replacing them anyway. We thanked her and carried the ovals home like talismans. We set one in the hall, one inside. We turned the tiny switches and waited for them to spit their tune. The sound was thin and insistent, like a mosquito that knows your ear too well. We switched them off and looked at each other. These would not keep a person out. They would tell us when the door tried to forget it belonged to us. At noon, we tried to live a day. Bree went to her shift. I answered 2 work emails and pretended the sentences mattered to anyone. I ate a sandwich and tasted none of it. I wiped the counter and saw the circle where a mint mug had rested in the Polaroid. I scrubbed that spot until the wood looked new. The ring did not return. It only lived on film now. At 3, Ria texted, "You at home? I can swing by." I wrote yes. She stepped in with her boots leaving prints on the mat and studied the door like a rower studying a river. 2, she said, not as a question. 1 neat, 1 heavy. I nodded. Neat 1 keeps rules, she said. Heavy 1 wants to be noticed. If there is entry, I would bet on heavy trying to prove a point while neat pretends to be a teacher. How? I asked. How can a point walk through a door without a sound? Keys exist where we do not expect them, she said. Have you lost one you never marked as gone? We shook our heads. Then look for doors. You forget our doors, she said. The building has more doors than the one with a knob. When she left, I walked the rooms like a person learning them for the first time. I touched the baseboards. I pressed my palm to the wall where a previous tenant had painted around a switch plate. I ran 2 fingers along the lip of the kitchen cabinet, where the paint had a drip that looked like a tear that never fell. In the bedroom, I stood by the closet and stared at the ceiling. A small panel sat there, painted the color of the room, a simple square with no handle. I had noticed it when we moved in, and then chosen not to think of it. The access for the attic crawl, the place ducting runs, the crawl a person can belly through if they have reason to know the map. Our super had mentioned it once when the upstairs neighbor's light died. He had pushed a rod up and nudged a wire, and the light had returned. Forgotten door, I said. We pulled a chair under the panel and fetched a wooden spoon. Bree touched the edge with the spoon handle, and the panel did not move. She pushed a little. Still nothing. She looked at me. I held the spoon and pressed gently toward one corner. A small give. Another press. The edge lifted a finger's width. Dust fell. The smell of old wood and insulation cotton came with it. I tasted dry in the back of my mouth. I lowered the panel and listened the way a person listens to a seashell for proof of an ocean. Silence. We left the chair in place and wrote in the notebook, ceiling access panel, possible map. We did not have a ladder. We did not have the nerve to climb, even if we did. I decided to let the detective stand under that square with his own hands, reaching into the dark when the time came. I would not put my head into a space that forgot what faces look like. At 6, Bree returned and placed 2 little bells on the table. For cats, she said, or doors. String them on thread. If someone lifts the panel, we will hear a soft chime and know which way to look. We tied them, climbed the chair, and worked slowly, careful not to push the square higher than necessary. We looped the thread over a small nail some previous tenant had forgotten to pull. We let the bells hang inside the smallest gap. We lowered the panel and stepped back. The bells did not ring. They waited. The building fell into evening habits. A laugh in the hallway. A door shut 2 floors below. A television through a wall, low, speaking about weather no one can control. Mr. Cardoza's kettle. The mint he had given us steeped into air. At 9 o'clock, I sent the detective the new note about the ceiling access. He responded faster than expected. Do not touch further. I will be there at noon tomorrow. Keep your routine steady. Keep your rules on paper. We sat with tea. We played a quiet game of spotting sounds. Pipe, fridge, elevator, footsteps with keys, footsteps with groceries, footsteps with nothing but the weight of a day. The exercise kept my mind in the room we actually lived in, not the one I kept building in my head. At 11:52, the lobby camera clicked. A figure stepped into the frame and then moved back under the awning. Chapter, jacket, water beating on fabric. The second shape stood a yard away and did not come close to the glass. The taller figure taped a card at eye level. The card held only one word. Still. Then both figures lifted their heads toward the stairwell window as if listening for a cue. At 12:06, the card was gone. At 1:12, the stair light came on and off again without weight. Maybe the sensor. Maybe a moth. I wrote both on the list so I would not have to choose. At 2:18, a sound we did not know we had been waiting for. A soft, bright ring above our heads. The bells, one chime, then another. A third, hush and high, like a word that does not want to wake the house. We stood at the same time. The chair under the square waited as if it had been called to perform. The thread made a faint line where it pressed the panel. It moved again, the smallest quiver, followed by a sound softer than footsteps. Insulation settling. A sleeve brushing wood. A person inching. Bree touched my arm. We did not whisper. The apartment had taught us the value of silence long ago. I picked up my phone and opened the camera without turning on the light. I set it to record and pointed it at the panel. Then I texted the super and the detective with 3 words: ceiling, bells ringing. We did not stand beneath the square. We stood by the door with the chain and the alarms and the oval of stairlight showing at the threshold. The alarms sat off so they would not startle us into a bad choice. We did not want to run into a hallway without thinking. The bells rang a 4th time and then stopped. Dust whispered against the chair seat. The plant at the window made a tiny click as a leaf touched glass. The building held itself very still. I lifted the camera and zoomed. The panel edge did not move. The thread made its faint line. I tried to breathe in a way that would not give the room any more noise than it required from me. Another small sound arrived then, not above, not at the door, not in the hall. In the kitchen, a short metal tap. The sound a small object makes when it meets a larger one and chooses not to speak about it. We turned our heads together. The dish on the table sat where it always sits. The key charm, the star, the red notebook, the black notebook, the small hood that had covered the peephole, all arranged like a set. Nothing tipped, but the Polaroid sleeve beside the file had grown a new twin. We had not placed another. We had not heard the mail slot because it does not exist on our door. We had not heard the window because it had not opened. We had not heard footsteps because the ceiling prefers to tell the story in smaller words. I picked it up with 2 fingers and held it to the light. The image was still developing, the way Polaroids do. Soft outlines deciding what they want to be. A table, a dish, a plant, 2 mugs. U.S. Our shoulders pressed together. Our faces pulled small by the lens. Our eyes angled up because we were looking at the ceiling, taken from inside. We stood without speaking, holding the picture while it finished telling us what it was. Through the peephole, no steps. Above, the bells quiet. In the hall, the light did not come on. The room felt like a person who has watched you discover something and is waiting to see who you are afterward. "Write it," Bree said, voice smaller than I have heard it. I wrote 2:22, bells, new Polaroid of us angled up, no sound of door, no window, no footsteps. Ceiling access suspected. I wanted to add a line about helplessness. I did not. The room already knew. We placed the new photo in the file under plastic. The first image had faded into its matte finality. This one still held a little sheen. I closed the folder and placed it in the drawer where we keep the tools we reach for first. We did not sleep again. We sat on the floor, backs against the door, feet flat, mugs cooling by our knees. I thought about how a person can learn every creak in a house and still forget the square in the ceiling. I thought about how heavy a camera must feel in a hand that has decided it belongs in rooms it did not earn. I thought about the Fox sticker across the alley, still taped with care by a neat hand that pretends the world loves its order. At 3:03, my phone lit. A text from the number that prefers stars. Only 2 words again. Kind door. I did not reply. I will not reply. At 3:07, another text from a second number, the one that overpencils words and loves foxes. Dark door. We did not reply to that one either. The plant touched the glass again and made its shy click. I imagined a small bird outside, tapping a beak to the pane, the way wrens test a reflected tree. I decided to prefer that picture. It helped my ribs expand when I breathed. At 5:12, a blue dry light began to pull the city forward. The bells stayed quiet. The thread made its thin line. I made tea with the last of Mr. Cardoza's mint and watched the steam write temporary messages into air. We had done almost everything on the list. We had called people who believe us. We had kept the file. We had kept the rules. Still, the small square in the ceiling had moved enough to ring bells we had hung with hands that shake. I sat with that, with the knowledge that a person can do everything a person should and still find a new door in a room you thought you owned. It is a hard truth. It is not a reason to stop. Soft footsteps crossed the hall then. A kind knock touched our door once. Mr. Cardoza, early with mail gossip or a plant clipping. I wanted to open for him. I wanted his face to remind me what neighbors look like at dawn. "Not yet," Bree said, reading my shoulders. We wrote a new rule in the notebook, the kind that feels like a hand on your back. Rule 8. We ask for help in daylight, even if it feels small. At 7:58, I texted the detective and the super. "We are awake. We are ready when you are." The bells did not ring again. Instead, from deep inside the vent, a 2-note hum slipped into the room and held there, as if someone had finally learned how to sing without touching the door at all. The hum came through the vent like a secret someone wanted us to overhear. 2 notes, long, careful. We sat still. Listening made us part of it, but not answering kept us whole. At noon, Detective Ayer arrived. He climbed the chair and pressed the ceiling square with both hands. His flashlight swept the crawl space. Dust drifted down like it wanted to disguise his shoulders. He came back with a face that gave nothing away. "Dust is broken," he said. "Fresh slides. Someone has been up there. No shoe marks, no knees. Just elbows and belly." He bagged the bells, the thread, the Polaroids. He took the notebooks and charms, promising they'd be logged and scanned. "Objects are words," he said. "We'll see if the ink speaks." Before leaving, he set a card on our table. "Emergency line. Direct." His eyes softened. "Do not feel smaller than this. You've been exact. That's why you're still steady." Bree wanted to move. Leave the apartment, sleep in a hotel or a friend's couch. But the rules felt anchored here. If we left, we'd take them with us. Or worse, leave them behind to keep writing themselves. So we stayed. We bought heavier curtains. We asked the super to screw the ceiling square tight. We added the library's old alarms to the vent covers. Little defenses that felt like stitches on fabric already fraying. That night, at 2:18, no sound, no card at the glass, no hum in the stair. Only silence so thick it felt padded. We almost believed it had stopped. Almost. At 2:32, the apartment phone rang. Not our cells. The lobby landline. The one bolted by the mailboxes. Its buzz echoed up the stair like a call no one should answer. We didn't move, but through the peephole, we saw a shape waiting. Chapter, jacket, shoulders lifted as if holding a smile. The phone rang until its cord sounded tired, then it stopped. The shape stayed, listening, then left. Morning brought mail, 2 envelopes, one in each handwriting. The neat hand wrote, "Rule 9, notice keeps us safe. Keep noticing." The heavy hand scrawled, "Rule 9, we are already inside." Same number, 2 voices. We added our own line to our notebook. Rule 9, we don't share rules we don't trust. At dusk, May emailed, "Session Thursday. Bring nothing but yourselves. Words can follow you if you carry them too long. Bree closed the laptop and whispered, "We can finish this. We can choose the last door." Her eyes were tired but sure. We made one more rule that night. Rule 10. Kindness does not mean opening. We left the notebook open on the table, the page waiting like a hand palm up. At 2:18, the bells did not ring. The buzzer did not sound. The vent did not hum. Instead, the lobby camera clicked. A figure stepped into the light, alone this time. Cap brim low, a ring flashing on the index finger. He held up a paper sign with 3 words in neat black print. Final night soon. Feathered cliffhanger. In the morning, the fox sticker across the alley was gone. In its place, a strip of mirror angled to catch our window. The fox sticker was gone. In its place, a thin strip of mirror angled toward our window. It caught our glass and sent back a pale shard of morning. Bree stood beside me with her arms tight to her ribs. "They don't need the sticker," she said. "They want a line of sight." We fed the folder, a photo of the mirror, the time, the weather, the way the light landed on our plant and made it shine like something underwater. Detective Iyer texted at 9. "Hold pattern. I'm bringing a ladder and a second set of eyes. Noon." The super replied on the same thread. "I'll meet you. I've got extra screws." We left the blinds cracked an inch and set the kettle. I poured mint over 2 bags and watched the steam right and vanish. At noon they arrived, soft as a service call. No sirens, no boots on stairs. The super rolled in a small ladder. The detective pulled blue gloves over his wrists. He studied the ceiling square, then the vent, then the tiny bells we had hung. He nodded at the neat loops. "Good idea," he said. "Sound is faster than thought." He loosened the panel screws and lifted a corner, careful and slow. Dust fell. Insulation breathed a dry cotton smell. He slid a small camera up, looked at his screen, moved left, then right. The first thing he brought down was a little plastic hood like the one we found on the peephole. He set it on the table. "For the vents," he said. "Helps a phone hear what it wants." Next came a thread of fishing line, braided and clean. He held it to the light. Polaroid tether. He feeds the camera through the vent and lowers it, pulls it back by hand when the shot is done. He set it beside the hood. Finally, a palm-sized square of black plastic proved what the hum had been. A battery speaker, tiny, harmless looking. He touched the button and 2 notes slipped into the kitchen. The vent answered with a dull echo. Bree closed her eyes. "So that's how he learned to sing without touching the door." The detective nodded. "He taught the room to sing for him." He reached up one more time and pulled a final object free with a small clink. A flat metal tool 2 feet long, hinged in the middle, a thin magnet on one end. Used for fishing keys from hall tables, used for flipping latches, used for tugging small things you are sure no one can reach. He flattened it and clicked the hinge closed. "Stows easy on a belt." The super's face changed, the way a father's face changes when a door he trusted reveals a gap he never knew was there. "I'll close the crawl," he said softly. "Screws, brackets, paint. I'll write it on the board for every unit." Iyer took photos. He bagged the speaker and the line. He labeled the tool. "We'll dust these," he said. "Ink speaks. Metal holds touch. We'll see what the objects want to tell." His voice stayed even. Not triumphant, not tired. A man reading the next line on a familiar page. He didn't promise an arrest. He didn't give us a name. He did give us a plan. "Stay in the light you own. Do not answer. If you hear the bells or the vent again, call me on the direct. The file is open now. If they return, the return will be documented under a case, not a rumor." He left us with the ladder, the super with a small plastic tub of screws, and a list taped to the wall. He had written it in block letters: door, vent, ceiling, windows, LOGEAT, DRINK, rest. It looked simple. It looked like a grocery list. It made the kitchen steadier. The super anchored the square, one screw after another, brackets biting wood, heads flush and firm. He didn't talk while he worked. When he finished, he pressed his palm to the panel like it had a pulse and looked at us. "You call if the house sings again," he said. "Any hour." We made sandwiches. We ate. We cleaned the counter. Small acts pulled the room back into our hands. At 3, Ria walked us around the block. The day had a clear edge for the first time in a week. The rain had moved on. The light found any bright thing and named it. A yellow umbrella, a red curb, the silver of the library's door handle. She stopped by the laundry window and frowned at the mirror strip. With 2 quick motions and a pocket scraper, she took it down and slipped it into a zip bag. "Return to sender," she said dryly, and I smiled for the first time that day. We brought the mirror to the detective. He said thank you, like we had handed him a teaspoon of flour for a cake he had to bake without a recipe. Every ingredient helps. Night came without ceremony. We stood in our doorway and practiced our line one more time. We don't open. We don't answer. We call daylight to our side. At 2:18, the apartment held. No hum, no scrape. The bells never stirred. We woke anyway at 3:03 and listened to pipes and clock and fridge. The building made a choir of gentle noises we finally recognized as home. Morning gave us something different. The red notebook on the mat, waiting like a pet. We did not bring it in. We slid it into a bag with tongs and texted the detective. He came, bagged it, and left. The day made ordinary sounds again. By noon, a short line of neighbors stood in the lobby with the super, murmuring. A new flyer had appeared on the board, printed in neat black. Notice night. Thursday. Bring your small stories. The librarian had written the title. Ria had added the time. May had reserved the room. We went. Of course we went. That evening, beneath the community center's bright panels and the hum of old vents, 12 people and a few more drifted in, passing a tray of cookies and a jar of peppermint tea. May stood by a whiteboard and let the room breathe. "We'll write what helps," she said. "We'll listen the rest of the time." No boasting, no shame. People shared, the way people do when the light is gentle. A nurse on nights spoke about footsteps that knew her schedule better than she did. A student had a story about a ride share that changed routes at the last second. Mr. Cardoza told the room about chains and screws and how extra hardware should be shared like bread. The librarian said, "Notice is free," and the room murmured agreement. Ria mapped camera cones on a printed grid and circled awnings you could stop under if rain had nothing to do with weather. When our turn came, we did not pull out the folder. We kept it zipped. We told the shortest version we could live with, the 2 notes, the small charms, the vent voice, the ceiling square, the way someone had taught the building to speak. And the last thing we told was this: "We never opened," I said, "and we are still here." That sentence felt like a key in air. It turned, it fit. The room did not clap. That would have felt wrong. It breathed in and out with us. The detective sat in the back, quiet, letting the room be the room. He only lifted a finger at the end. "If anyone here has received notebooks on their mats, we'd like to see them." The ink is speaking. 2 people came forward, a man with a cap he wouldn't remove, a woman with a careful mouth. They didn't say much. They handed over what they had with the look people get when they're tired of sleeping fast. Not a sting, not a raid, just a basket for objects and a sign-in sheet so the things would have names to stand by. Back home, the stair bulb threw its clean oval onto our floor again. We liked it more than we should. We put our mint plant in a bigger pot. We left the blinds at their honest angle and made soup with the last of the carrots. It tasted warm and plain. Good. 2 days later, the red notebook returned by mail with a note from the detective. Processed. Clean. No prints worth keeping. Keep logging. One suspect detained for trespass on another block. The second is only a shadow so far. He will prefer darkness that isn't yours if you continue to give him none. We read the words twice. Not a movie ending, not a headline. A human ending. The kind where protection looks like neighbors, a good super, a patient officer, a room full of people with cookies, and a small stack of ugly tools in an evidence bin. That night at 2:18, I made us tea on purpose. We decided the minute could belong to us again. We named it quietly, under our breath, Tea Minute. We sat with our mugs and the window open 2 fingers wide. The city smelled like rain left behind. A bus sighed somewhere. Wind under the eaves wrote a faint line. The bells kept their peace. The phone lit at 3:03 with a single banner. Evan, subject, kindness. I didn't open it. I archived it into a folder called Noise. I watched my thumb do it and felt my ribs loosen. Not a victory, a skill. In the morning, the mirror across the alley was gone. The laundry window showed only the cheerful Fox sticker, retaped by someone with neat hands. Maybe the librarian after her shift. Maybe the super. Maybe a person who liked small mascots exactly where they belong. I pulled out our notebook and turned to a clean page. The rules we had written earlier filled the left side in a calm list. I added one more to the right, in letters large enough to read from the couch. Rule 11. We choose a gentle habit for the minute that scared us. Bree nodded. Last one? She asked. I thought about the kind door, about the vent that learned a tune, about the ceiling that is truly a wall now, framed and firm, about the people who would text if the buzzer rang after 10, about the librarian's card with a kettle water stain, about Rhea tapping awning posts and telling them to stay strong, about Mr. Cardoza's new cap with the wren on it, the bird stubborn as a nail. I turned the page and wrote a final line. Rule 12. We see, we speak, we stay. We left the notebook open, not for a watcher, for ourselves. The room felt taller by half an inch. A week passed. No hum, no paper, no charms. The super painted over the small scuffs near the peephole in the stair rail. The camera saw normal things. Bags of groceries. A woman in a yellow coat holding a toddler on her hip while she fished for keys. A delivery driver with a plant wrapped in brown paper. The world going on. On Thursday, we brought a fresh plate of cookies to notice night and sat near the back. A teenager talked about seeing a strip of mirror in his alley and taking it down with a broom. A man talked about unlearning the urge to chase and learning the choice to call. A young woman asked a question about stalkers in theater. May wrote in clear letters, "Kindness does not require opening." The room repeated the sentence. It sounded like a bell everyone had learned together. On Friday, we stood by the window at 2:18 and watched the alley breathe. The Fox sticker watched back. The plant leaned toward the glass with its usual stubborn joy. We made tea. We drank it. If you ask how it ended, this is the truth. It didn't end in the way stories end. Nothing broke, no doors burst, no secrets screamed. 2 people, maybe one and someone learning, found smaller shadows to stand in when the bigger ones were lit. A detective built a file that didn't need to shout. A super pressed a square into place. A building listened to new rules. And us? We stayed, not out of spite, out of care. For ourselves, for the next person, for any girl who tapes a line of words to her door and needs to know the room can still belong to her. A month later, the library replaced the printer with a quieter one. The silver-haired librarian slipped us a thin book with a fox on the cover. The back page had a stamp, discarded. She smiled. "It deserves a table now," she said. We set it on our shelf beside the mint and the file and the single Polaroid we kept visible on purpose. An empty table with a plant and 2 mugs, no faces in frame. When people visit, they don't ask about it. They drink tea and talk about work and light and small routes to the bus stop. At night, the city still breathes under the eaves. The fridge still hums in its mild key. Sometimes a neighbor's laugh leaks through the wall and makes the cups ring. At 2:18, we still pour water. We make the minute our own. If a tune slips through the vent now, it belongs to the building. Winter air, summer fan, a child's distant singing when a window somewhere is left open. We hear it and decide whether to keep it. We don't watch the door for signs. We watch for friends. We count to 10 when we unlock and step into the hall, so the stair light has time to draw its oval and tell us the way. I learned something I can keep. A rule is a kindness you write for the future version of you who needs it. You tape it where you can read it. You share it with a neighbor who calls himself a light sleeper. You try to leave the place safer than you found it. Sometimes that is the ending. We see, we speak, we stay.